very warm welcome to thorough newspaper analysis for 5th of April, which is brought to you by LawSikho. Now, as far as the agenda for today is concerned, we're going to have a look at some of the important news updates in the national and international segment. This is going to be followed by two legal news updates for today, and at the very end, we have an editorial to discuss, the title of which is The House of Absences. Essentially, in this particular editorial, the author talks about the difference that we see now among the parliamentarians when it comes to their keenness, or the lack rather of it, in joining the parliamentary sessions, and how the parliamentary sessions are mostly they are a bunch or mixes of walkouts by the MPs, and there is not a lot of parliamentary debates, which we saw in the golden age of our parliament, which we witnessed in 1950s and 1960s, and we had very strong parliamentarians who would debate for hours in the parliament in form of Jawaharlal Nehru and Vajpayee ji. So we're going to have a look at the same. And with this, let's start with the TNA for today. The first update in the national segment is with respect to an exercise, a military exercise between the navies of India and that of Sri Lanka. So the 10th edition of India's Sri Lanka Bilateral Maritime Exercise, SLINEX 23, it is scheduled at Colombo from 3rd of April to 8th of April. The exercise is being conducted in two phases. The first phase, which is the harbour phase, is started on 3rd of April and is going to conclude today, that is 5th of April, while this is going to be followed by a sea phase from 6th of April to 8th of April this year. Now, see, this particular exercise, it is aimed at enhancing and improving mutual understanding and exchanging best practices while jointly undertaking multifaceted maritime operations. Professional, cultural and sporting events, as also social exchanges, are planned during the harbour phase to further bolster the bonds of friendship among the two navies. Now, the next update is with respect to the Rajya Sabha passing the Competition Bill of 2023. So recently, the Rajya Sabha approved the Competition Amendment Bill of 2023, aimed at modernizing the two-decade-old antitrust law to align with the changes that we now have witnessed or seen in our economy or the economy world over. The Competition Amendment Bill of 2023, it aims to modify the Competition Act of 2002, which authorizes the Competition Commission of India to prevent practices that adversely impact competition and consumer interests. The bill was introduced in the Parliament last year in August of last year, and following this, it was referred to the Standing Committee on Finance for review. The committee submitted its report in December last year, and the bill was thereafter reintroduced with some amendments in February this year. The Lok Sabha passed the bill on March 29th. The proposed changes include reducing the time limit for assessment of combinations, broadening the scope of anti-competitive agreements, and changing penalties. Under the new bill, the mergers and acquisitions exceeding rupees 2,000 crores in value, they must be notified to the CCI, the Competition Commission of India, provided that the party being acquired has substantial business operations in India. The bill also reduces the overall time limit for the assessment of combinations to 150 days from existing to 110 days. The other changes include the broadening of scope of anti-competitive agreements to cover hub and spoke cartel, sellers and sales of goods and services, and modifying the factors used by CCI to determine whether an agreement has an appreciable adverse impact on competition. Now, the next update is with respect to RBI announcing Neeraj Nigam as its new executive director. Nigam was previously the regional director of the Bhopal office of the bank and will now assume his new office or a new role as the executive director. RBI made this announcement through a press release. Now, with over 30 years of experience, Neeraj Nigam, he has worked in various roles such as regulation and supervision, human resource management, premises, currency management and bank accounts at both the central office and the regional offices of RBI. Now, the next update is with respect to the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry Organization, FLO, announcing its new national president. So the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry Ladies Organisation on Monday said that investment banker and lawyer Sudha Shivkumar has taken over as its 40th national president. The organization, it is world's its oldest women-led and women-centric organization, business chamber rather, of Southeast Asia. As the 40th national president, Shivkumar, she is going to focus on empowering women by facilitating an enabling environment, promoting entrepreneurship, industry participation, and economic development of women. Now, moving on to the next update, which is with respect to a new appointment in the high commands of the Indian Navy. So on 2nd of April, Vice-Admiral Sanjay Jasjit Singh, he assumed the position of Vice Chief of Naval Staff as part of a series of high-level changes in the Indian Navy. Vice-Admiral Singh graduated from the NDA in Pune and joined the Indian Navy's executive branch in the year 1986. Over his 37-year-long career, he has served on several or various types of ships and held many leadership roles, including Assistant Chief of Naval Staff, Flag Officer Commanding of the Western Fleet, Commandant Naval War College, the Controller Personnel Services. Prior to his current position as the Vice Chief of Naval Staff, he was Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff Operations. In recognition of his distinguished service, he was awarded the Nau Sena Medal of the year 2009 and the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal of the year 2020. Moving on to the next update. So recently, philanthropist and art director Kiran Nadar was conferred the Knight of Legion of Honor by French Ambassador to India. The highest French civilian award comes in recognition of Nadar's outstanding contribution in the field of art, her commitment to providing greater access to culture, both nationally and internationally, and her leading role in fostering Indo-French cultural ties. She is the chairperson of the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, which is a philanthropic initiative in art, and she's also trustee of the Shiv Nadar Foundation, and she has played a pivotal role in advancing Indo-French cultural ties and artistic cooperation, as a result of which she is conferred the highest civilian award of the country there. Now with this, we've come to the international segment, and today we have an important update in the segment of law, but it is coming from the Parliament of Malaysia. So the Malaysia's Parliament, it has passed a bill to introduce significant reforms that would eliminate mandatory death penalties for several crimes. This particular move, it is about to bring a ray of hope for about 1,300 death row prisoners who may receive possible reprieves under the new legislation. Under the current laws, the courts must impose, or the courts have been given the mandate of imposing mandatory death sentence by hanging as punishment for 11 serious crimes, including murder, drug trafficking, kidnapping, and acts of terror. However, with the new bill, it offers courts the option to choose jail imprisonment or jail sentences or term between 30 to 40 years and canning as an alternative punishment. This was stated by the Law Minister. Now, before we proceed with the next update in the international segment itself, I have a question. I would like to know as to by which decision the Honorable Apex Court has upheld the constitutional validity of death sentence in our country. Kindly put your answers in the comment section. Now, the next update is coming from NASA. So, NASA on Monday announced that there are 4 astronauts. They will be the first crew to board the Orion space craft on a trip to the moon. This will be the first crew to head to the moon since the end of the Apollo mission in 1972. However, the 4 astronauts will not land on the moon. Instead, they will go around the moon in a far-flung orbit, and then they're going to return to the Earth. So they're not going to land. They're going to circle around the moon, and then they're going to come back to the Earth. So as part of the Artemis 2nd mission, the 4 astronauts will launch on board the world's most powerful rocket, space launch system, towards the moon. However, they're not going to land on the lunar surface. Now, as far as the objective of this particular mission is concerned, it is to demonstrate that all the Orion's life support apparatus and other systems will operate as designed with astronauts on board in deep space. Now, moving on to the next update, this is an interesting update, and some might call it bizarre as well. So recently, Elon Musk has replaced Twitter's Bluebird logo with Doge. Twitter's Bluebird, it is now replaced by the Shiba Inu dog meme, which is also the logo of Dogecoin cryptocurrency. Oddly enough, the change to Doge, it is only visible on the web version of Twitter. And if you see the Twitter app, then that particular logo, it is not visible. Now, as far as some news agencies are concerned, they reported that the value of Dogecoin went up by almost 30% after Twitter changed its homepage logo to the dog meme. Now with this, we've come to the legal update segment for today. So the Honorable Apex Court in the case of Prem, Kishore and others versus Brahm, Prakash and others has recently held that an order which is closing the proceedings in a case, they cannot be, that particular order, it cannot be construed as a final decision on the merits so far as to bar a subsequent suit. The court noted that general principle of res judicata, which is contained in section 11 of the CPC, it contained rules of conclusiveness of judgment. But res judicata is to apply when the matter directly and substantially in issue in the subsequent suit, it is the same matter which was directly and substantially in issue in the former suit, and not only that, it has to be decided on merits. So essentially, the Honorable Apex Court said that in order for you to attract the principle of res judicata and bar the second suit which is brought by the parties, the same parties or the parties litigating under the same capacities, they are going to, or they'll be able to successfully raise the bar to the second suit when the previously decided case, it was decided on merits. So that's what the Honorable Apex Court has said. Now moving on to the next update, which is coming from the High Court of Karnataka. So the Karnataka High Court has recently held that a gift deed executed by a senior citizen can be declared as null and void under the Senior Citizens Act only if the stipulation is contained therein that the transferee shall maintain him or her in return. Now with this, we've come to the editorial for today, the title of which is The House of Absentees, and this particular editorial is an Indian Express editorial. So essentially, as far as the structure of this particular editorial is concerned, we're going to have a look at the why of this particular article and what is the issue which is there in the article. So essentially, see, jaisa ki you would know, the budget session of the parliament was in session, and the author highlights that the parliament has followed a rather familiar routine this time as well, because both the houses, they were being adjourned within few minutes, and even the budget was passed without a discussion, and all the focus was on the government's demand for an apology from Rahul Gandhi and the opposition's particular demand and their walkouts on the entire Adani issue. So this is what the editorial highlights कि जो पार्लियामेंट का बजट सेशन है उसमें भी वही सिमिलर रूटीन हमें देखने को मिला, जिसमें कि पार्लियामेंट में डिस्कशंस नहीं हो पाई एंड इम्पॉर्टेंट मुद्दों पर भी, जैसे कि हमारा जो बजट था इट वाज आल्सो पास विदाउट डिस्कशन, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट और दो जो कंटेशियस इशू थे वो ये था कि गवर्नमेंट वाज डिमांडिंग अपॉलॉजी फ्रॉम मिस्टर राहुल गांधी एंड वाइल द ऑपोजिशन वाज स्टेजिंग द एंटायर walkout and all the other chaos with respect to the Adani issue. Now let's understand how are we going to go about covering this particular article. So essentially हम देखेंगे कि जो हमारा golden period of हमारी parliament था in 1950s and 1960s, जहाँ पे कि एक कुछ बहुत ही strong parliamentarians थे जिन्होंने parliament की गरिमा को uphold किया अपने well researched debates से, और उनका जो जुनून था parliament की sessions को attend करना throughout their careers as MPs and parliamentarians, they live up to the dignity of parliament. So this is what we're going to see in the first half of the article, and essentially इसमें mention होगा पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू का and वाजपेयी जी का, and then this is going to be followed by the trends that we see currently कि current parliamentarians का क्या trend है, क्या उनका conduct है, and then we're going to have a look at rule 267 of the rule of procedure, which was invoked by the opposition to start a debate on matter of urgent public importance. And then this is going to be followed by an understanding of 4 reasons as to why the current situation is so, कि जो currently जो trends हमें देखने को मिल रहे हैं जहाँ पे there is absence from the parliament and parliamentarians are not that keen on having thought provoking debates in the parliament, तो ये situation क्यों है, इसके लिए author ने 4 reasons cite किए हैं. So we're going to have a look at that, and at the very end we're going to have a look at the parting note of the article. So let's start with the same. Now, as far as the why of the article is concerned, we've already looked कि budget session में we saw that there was a not lot of debate, and budget was also passed without the debate, and there were chaos and because of the contesting demands of the party in power and the opposition. Now let's understand how it is different from the parliament that we had in 50s and 60s. So the author says that at a time when India's parliament is in deep crisis, here's a point to ponder. Both the two architects of the two main parties, the post-independence Congress and BJP, these were the two parties, and the architects of these two parties, कौन थे वो? Jawaharlal Nehru and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. They shared a common trait, and the trait was they both were above all passionate parliamentarians, and they were die-hard Lok Sabha men. Their parliamentary speeches, they are enormous compendiums of facts and arguments deployed with wit and flair. Both Nehru and Vajpayee, they were parliamentarian MPs regularly sitting through the question hour facing a volley of questions. In Vajpayee's case, his bureaucrats would complain that it was very difficult to get him to come to his ministerial office. Why? Because he was constantly sitting in the parliament itself. Now, as far as Nehru is concerned, he took parliament so seriously that Vajpayee wrote for him that parliament was Nehru's sacred temple. His very presence charged the atmosphere in the house, lending it great prestige, great seriousness. For Nehru, parliament was free India's supreme achievement, the forum where the republic would be debated into existence. Nehru not only attended parliament regularly but was extremely punctual in arriving at the house on time. He would stop speaking the minute the speaker rang the bell for him, signaling him to stop. Even when not present in the Lok Sabha, he would hear the debates in his room, and he would run as and when there is any interesting debate going on. Now, Nehru sat through repeated attacks during a no confidence motion which was brought by Acharya Kriplani and answered each charge. And there is an instance cited when socialist leader Manohar Lal Lohia, he once jeered in parliament that Nehru was no aristocrat. I can prove that Ram Manohar Lohia, he said, and I quote, I can prove that the Prime Minister's grandfather was a chaprasi in the Mughal court, yelled Lohia. So countered Nehru, he said, and I quote, I'm glad that the honorable member has at least accepted that I am a man of the people. Always on lookout for parliamentary talent, Nehru spotted one in young Vajpayee, and he telephoned a diplomat, then posted in New York to invite Vajpayee to the US and introduce him to eminent people. And now, the editorial further states that it was on the floor of the House that Nehru admitted of his personal aide, one of his personal aides had committed a wrongdoing, and he stated it in the parliament itself, and he referred his case to the Privileges Committee, and later his personal aide who did that wrongdoing, he was dismissed also. And in this respect, Vajpayee said, and I quote, he said, what Pandit Nehru said in the House over his aide's misdoings, it should be guidance for future prime ministers. As far as Vajpayee's case is concerned, the author says that Vajpayee prepared his speeches to be delivered in the parliament very meticulously. And when he first became an MP in the year 1957, then General Secretary, who was Deen Dayal Upadhyay, he deputed a young English-speaking RSS pracharak, who is Lal Krishna Advani, LK Advani, then working in Rajasthan, to come to Delhi and specifically help Vajpayee research and prepare his speeches thoroughly for the parliament sessions. The Vajpayee-Adani bond was established while crafting a range of parliamentary interventions against Nehru's government, an opposition parliamentarian almost his life. Vajpayee was almost continually an MP for nearly half a century, from 1957 to 2005 and 6, and introduced 22 bills from this particular time framework, out of which 20 were introduced when he was in opposition, of which 9 were constitution amendment bills. Now, when we see the parliamentarians that we had in 1950s and 60s and in the early 2000s, and we compare them with respect to the parliamentarians that we have today, the author says that citizens recently saw photos of parliament all up in chaos, and there are riots, and there are riot police vans and barricades staged outside the parliament. The top leadership of the BJP, including the prime minister, have been accused of hardly attending parliament and not participating in debates, and attendance of the opposition leader like Rahul Gandhi, it is well below the national average. And then the author says or adds that Rule 267 of the Rules of Procedure, it has been invoked by the opposition to start a debate on matters of urgent public importance, such as the activities of China on the border and the findings of the Heidelberg research in the Adani issue. But debates have not been allowed. Opposition members are accusing the ruling party of disrupting parliament, and vice versa. That is, the ruling party is also accusing the opposition of disrupting the parliamentary sessions. Last week, audio from parliament for it was switched off for about 20 minutes. There have been little debates on major policy moves such as the farm laws of 2021 or the revocation of Article 317 2019 for that matter. Parliament sits for less and less time. यहाँ पे it is important for us to have a look at the global trends and see कि globally what is the average for which the parliament observes its sitting. So see, as far as our country is concerned, अगर हम डेटा देखें 1956 का एंड 2017 का, तो वी वुड फाइंड कि 1956 में नंबर ऑफ एनुअल सिटिंग्स जो थी वो थी 151, जबकि 2017 में ये एनुअल सिटिंग जो है दे फॉलन डाउन टू लेस देन 60, इट वाज 57. एज फार एज यूके एंड यूएस इज कंसर्न, तो एवरेज एनुअल सिटिंग जो उनकी है वो है 150 एंड 100 days respectively. Now let's understand कि ये क्यों हो रहा है, what is the reason. So the author cites four particular reasons, and it says that first, in the 1950s and 60s जो हमारी गोल्डन एज मानी जाती है पार्लियामेंट की, उस टाइम पे ना ही तो सोशल मीडिया था, ना ही लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग थी टेलीविजन पे, तो इसीलिए एमपीज को अपनी पॉपुलैरिटी बढ़ाने के लिए, उनको अपनी वॉइसेस हर्ड करने के लिए, अपना एक्यूमन दिखाने के लिए और क्रेडिबिलिटी एस्टैब्लिश करने के लिए, they had to rely on parliament as the stage where they could voice their opinion, they could put forth their speeches in order to establish their acumen or credibility. So this is what the author says, that today it's the media that builds personality cults, and social media enables a direct outreach between politician and the voter, thus short circuiting the need for a power packed parliamentary performance. Now, as far as the second reason is concerned, the author says that public life is intensely polarized, making debate almost impossible because of the high level of animosity between the government and the opposition. We could also see generally also how public life has become intensely polarized. People are poles apart on a lot of issues, and the opposition and the party that we have in power, the BJP, unka bhi there is no middle path that they have on a lot of issues. And also author ने ये भी reflect किया है कि जो regrettably क्या हो रहा है अभी, जो speakers है ना, they are also not inclined to finding a middle path between these parties that are arriving at an amicable solution. तो जो speaker है वो भी अपनी post को इस respect में justify नहीं कर पा रहे हैं कि they are not able to bring both the parties on a middle ground. And then with this respect, the author cites the third reason as that there are few parliamentarians and politicians today, like we had in the past, who are known for their argumentative skills. And fourthly, while there is intense polarized animosity or enmity between parties, there seems to be a paradoxical policy consensus on welfarist populism and handouts. So there is no substantive contest of ideas on the economy and the society. Now with this, let's understand the parting note of the author. So the author says that without a functioning parliament, citizens are deprived of getting to know and hear about an elected government, what their elected government is actually doing and how is it functioning from the horse's mouth, that is the office holders in the administration. So when democratically elected governments, they are no longer accountable in parliament, citizens don't know what they have voted for. India will soon have a gleaming new parliament building, but democratic institutions are not built by brick and mortar. They require a commitment to the values of the constitutional democracy. Here's some advice for lawmakers who, after repeated walkouts, must have a lot of time on their hand. Perhaps they can spend a few hours reading about Nehru and Vajpayee's parliamentary history. So, with this, we end the TNA for today. In case you want to get access to the free study materials that LawSikho provides, or you want to get your hands on the TNA slides, I would request all of you to kindly join our Telegram channel using the link in the description, or you may scan the barcode here. In case you want to get in touch with LawSikho, these are the point of contacts for doing so. And the quiz for yesterday's TNA, it is provided in today's YouTube videos link, which is in the description, and kindly attempt the same. Also, please put down the answer to today's question in the comment section. Thank you for being with us.